Adidas just reported double-digit growth and soared to number 2 in global reputation rankings. Nike, on the other hand, well, their stock has hit the floor, with declining sales and their reputation ranking all the way down at number 50. But numbers and statistics only tell a fraction of the story. I wanted to find out exactly why Adidas is winning right now, and I managed to narrow it down to 5 specific shoes that show exactly why they're beating Nike in 2026. First up, the brand new Adidas Dropset Pro, and it is quickly becoming one of the most hyped up shoes that have just released. You've got well-respected people like the foot doctor Zach saying these are the best shoes out on the market.
This shoe right here is the Adidas Dropset Pro, and in my opinion, this is the best shoe on the market in any category, full stop.
So why is everyone making such a big deal about this sneaker? And why is it so special? Well, it does a few things right, but from a broader perspective, it fills a gap that Nike completely missed. You see, this shoe is designed for something called hybrid training. It is one of the fastest growing sports, and one of the most popular events called High Rocks, which you've probably heard about, is definitely what's making it so incredibly popular. Now, why so many people love High Rocks in comparison to other sports is simply because almost anyone can do it. It's a race that combines 8 kilometers of running with 8 functional workouts in between. So you do a kilometer of running and then you do some sort of functional exercise like sled pulls, wall balls, lunges, etc. And what makes this shoe so special is, yes, it takes advantage of a current massive fitness trend, but because it's built for a sport that has to consider so many different variables, it makes this kind of the perfect all-round shoe. So it extends to people who just want to wear something extremely comfortable and functional casually. It's breathable, it's built really tough. It's extremely comfortable with Light Strike Pro cushioning, but it's also super stable because of the rubber encasement of that foam. And then on top of that, you have energy rods underneath. And all of this is packed into a relatively affordable pair of shoes. And it's also incredibly good looking, built off of a well-tested design. You know, the Evo SL, one of the most popular shoes on the planet. They look extremely similar, if not identical from a distance. Nike, on the other hand, doesn't really have a shoe quite like this. Now, they've got shoes like the Metcon, which is a CrossFit style shoe that you wear in the gym for lifting. And of course, they've also got a ton of different running shoes. But the closest thing that Nike has that does all of this combined is the Structure Plus. Now, those shoes are great, don't get me wrong, but they're also a lot more expensive in comparison. And depending on what metric you would compare these two side by side, the Dropset wins, hands down, making these things just an extremely appealing pair of shoes for hybrid athletes, but also just for daily life. People who want to walk around wearing these things, like, they can pretty much do anything. Next up is almost an entire category instead of one singular shoe, but this is the Adidas Adizero Pacer, and it costs just $100. And it is the perfect example of Adidas being pretty much fearless when it comes to making an affordable alternative of one of their more expensive shoes. Like, seriously, because this Pacer model is so good, I would not be surprised if people chose these over the extremely similar and more expensive Evo SL. In fact, in my opinion, in some ways, the Pacer is actually better, especially for casual everyday wear. The craziest part is that this isn't just a one-off. They didn't just create the Pacer because the Evo SL was so popular and that was all that they had in their archive. They also created the Zenboost, an affordable alternative that costs just $100, which is extremely similar to the Hyperboost, or is a takedown model of that. And again, those are an extremely good pair of shoes for $100. They're incredibly comfortable and are an amazing option as an everyday casual shoe. There's the $130 Adistar XLG, which is 90% of the $300 Jellyfish sneaker. Now look, there's plenty of different examples that I could give for this specific thing where Adidas is just so good at affordable alternatives. What all of these perfectly showcase is that for Adidas, the gap between their expensive shoes and their affordable models is very narrow. But for Nike, this gap is much wider. In my experience, and I have tested so many different Nike shoes from all different price ranges, they make far less compelling affordable alternatives. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that Nike doesn't make any. I've tested the Windflow 12 and absolutely loved that model. The Nike V5 Runner is another great one, but typically Nike's more expensive shoes do not get an affordable alternative, or if they do, they're just far more inferior than the expensive one. Quality, comfort, and value for money is just nowhere near what you get when you pay more with Nike. But what I will say is that it's pretty clear Nike has paid attention to this. With the cost of living getting out of hand, people are wanting and needing more affordable alternatives. But it's only been very recently that Nike has started giving people slightly more options. And with Nike neglecting this category, Adidas is absolutely winning. The Pacer and Zenboost are great products that are just perfect for everyday casual wear and just insanely comfortable for the price. But next up is the all-new Hyperboost, which actually comes in two different flagship models. The Hyperboost Edge, which is a performance running shoe, and then you've got a lifestyle, everyday casual wearing Hyperboost Euphoria. Both of these are incredible shoes in their own way. The Edge, an amazing runner with incredible cushioning, and the Euphoria is just insanely comfortable and absolutely packed with tech. It also looks really good and great for an everyday shoe. But the most interesting part about both of these shoes is the evolution of the cushioning itself. You see, with running being such a huge part of both Nike and Adidas's business, the cushioning technology is always something that is at the forefront for these companies. It is one of, if not the most important thing that they could be iterating on and improving. And Nike's current flagship cushioning technology is ZoomX and ReactX. ZoomX was introduced in 2017, and so was React, although it did receive a slight minor upgrade called ReactX in 2023, but essentially they're 9 years old. And in that time, Adidas went from Boost, which took the world by storm, to Lightboost, to Lightstrike, to Hyperboost. And there's a bunch of small little iterations and improvements in between there, with things like Hyperboost Pro and Lightstrike Pro. Now, it's not to say that ZoomX is outdated and a terrible cushioning. It's still great. In fact, I think when it was released, it was ahead of its time. But the lack of introducing new cushioning technologies to the market from Nike could lead them to the same place that what happened to the Ultraboost back when Adidas first launched that in 2013. It basically died out when brands started introducing new foams with more comfort, more responsiveness. Right now, Adidas, with their latest cushioning technologies and constantly iterating on that, they're definitely winning. Not only is Lightstrike found in the most popular shoe that they sell, but marathon runners absolutely love this stuff. Now, Hyperboost, well, it only just recently launched, but so far it seems pretty incredible. But next is one of the more fascinating trends that we've seen in footwear in recent years. This is the Adidas Climacool, the first fully 3D printed shoe from them. In fact, it already comes in multiple different versions. You've got the clog slip-on one, and you've also got the laced version with a tongue attached and obviously laces. Now, they're both extremely comfortable shoes with 360-degree breathability because, I mean, it's a lattice structure, so there's air entering from all different angles. They look super cool, and when you feel it for the first time, feel just super interesting. But the most impressive thing about Adidas in their Climacool range is how readily accessible they are, and also affordable. You see, 3D printed shoes have been one of the biggest innovations in the footwear space over the past few years. They've got massive potential to be a large part of the overall footwear market. Maybe you'll remember Adidas when they introduced their 4D cushioning technology. That was all 3D printed. I mean, that was years ago. 3D printing has come so far since then. However, one of the downsides that still exists with 3D printed shoes today is they're often pretty expensive and they take a very long time to produce. So the fact that Adidas has figured out a way to have 3D printed shoes that are widely available at an affordable price point, I mean, they're literally something you can walk into a store and buy. It's a pretty massive deal. Nike, on the other hand, they do have their own 3D printed shoe with a partnership with Zellerfeld. And while I do think Nike and Zellerfeld's version is technically superior, it's a lot more intricate and futuristic. The two models that we've seen from them both cost quite a lot. We got the Air Max 1000 for $180, the Air Max 95,000 for $250. Both of these shoes are treated like a super limited, hyped up product that only a small amount of people can actually get their hands on. This technology, being one of the biggest innovations in footwear, should be front and center, and if people want to try out and experience this new tech, they should be able to get it. Now, maybe in the future, Nike will make them more accessible, but you know how Nike is with their limited shoes. They love them. But speaking of limited and hyped up products, this is the Willy Chavarria Adidas Mega Ride. It is a fascinating looking pair of shoes that is visibly striking, to say the least. But what I think it really does is represent how Adidas treats collaborations versus how Nike treats collaborations. This is a shoe that is so incredibly unique and different, and I think it perfectly showcases how almost fearless Adidas is, giving their collaborators creative freedom to put something like this out on the market. If you take a look at some of the most popular Adidas collaborations over the past few years, a common trend that you'll find is that they're either unrecognizable versions of an original Adidas silhouette, or oftentimes collaborators are just given their own signature sneaker. Bad Bunny pretty quickly got his own signature line with Adidas. Pharrell Williams' Jellyfish is so unrecognizable from an Adi Star 3 that it's basically its own signature shoe. Wales Bonner also got her own signature sneaker. But Nike, on the other hand, well, their collaborations oftentimes are just reskins of already existing models. Nigel Sylvester Jordan 4s are a Jordan 4. Travis Scott, despite having his own signature shoe, clearly the most popular and where they put the most attention is the Jordan 1. Lil Yachty with the Air Force. Cortez with the Air Max 95. I could list a bunch more, but the reality is, and the point I'm trying to get across, is that we're far more likely to see something completely new and crazy from Adidas than we are with Nike. Now look, in terms of collaborations, Nike still has some of the most popular and insanely hyped up collaborations. A lot of Nike silhouettes are just timeless and classics. But at the same time, one of the most popular complaints that people have about Nike is their lack of innovation, and allowing more collaborators to have more creative freedom and potentially introduce new models to the lineup could definitely help them with that. Now look, all of this is certainly not to say that Nike is dead and Adidas is the best. Brands go through ups and downs all the time. Right now, Adidas is just having one of the greatest comebacks in history. From losing billions in the collapse of the Yeezy empire to being culturally irrelevant, their ability to turn that ship around through great value products that are actually practically good, it is really great to see. And time will tell if Nike has the ability to turn their ship around. If history tells us anything, Nike will most likely be back and better than ever. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and if you've tried any of these 5 shoes in today's video. They're honestly some of the best shoes on the market right now. But if you wanted to know what the best shoes were strictly for comfort, check that video out right over there. It's the top 10.